I never imagined that something as simple as a camera could unravel parts of my life I had tried so hard to keep hidden. Looking back now, it almost feels like fate disguised itself in the shape of a lens, capturing not just photographs, but truths I was too afraid to admit. My name is Laura Peterson, and this is the story of how an unexpected moment with my son spiraled into a series of events that changed my family forever. I was 42 when all this began. I had been married to my husband Richard for over 20 years. On paper, our life looked beautiful. We had a nice home in the suburbs of Ohio, a stable marriage, 2 kids, and all the outward signs of success. But beneath that neat, picture-perfect surface, cracks had been growing for years. My husband and I had fallen into a routine that felt more like coexisting than living. He worked long hours at his law firm, and when he came home, he was usually tired, distracted, or buried in emails. Our conversations often circled around bills, schedules, and responsibilities, leaving very little space for intimacy or emotional connection. Our eldest son, Daniel, was 19 at the time, a bright and creative college sophomore, studying photography. He had always been passionate about the arts. Unlike his father, who had pushed for more practical careers, photography was Daniel's safe space, the one place where he felt he could express himself without judgment. He had a natural eye for detail, capturing emotions that most people overlooked. Sometimes when I flipped through his portfolio, I saw glimpses of depth that amazed me. Moments frozen in time, full of life, raw and unfiltered. It was during his spring break that Daniel came home with an idea. One morning, as I was cleaning up the kitchen after breakfast, he set his camera bag on the counter and said, "Mom, would you mind if I took some portraits of you? I need practice for my next assignment." At first, I laughed it off. Me, Daniel, I'm not exactly model material. But he looked at me with sincerity. "You are. You've always been. I think people don't see it because you're always so busy taking care of everyone else. I want to capture you the way I see you." His words caught me off guard. It had been years since anyone had looked at me that way, with admiration, with appreciation. Richard certainly hadn't. He rarely noticed when I changed my hair or bought a new dress. To hear my son speak with such conviction about my worth shook something deep inside me. I agreed, thinking it would be nothing more than a casual mother-son project. We set up a little makeshift studio in the living room, using natural light from the big window near the sofa. Daniel guided me gently, asking me to tilt my head, to relax my shoulders, to smile just enough to look natural. It was awkward at first, but soon I found myself laughing, enjoying the way he made me feel seen. For once, I wasn't just mom or the wife. I was a person, a woman, someone worth photographing. As Daniel clicked away, I felt layers of insecurity begin to peel off. When he showed me the photos later, I was stunned. In those images, I looked vibrant, strong, even beautiful. Not the tired, invisible woman I saw in the mirror every morning. Daniel had somehow captured a version of me I thought I had lost years ago. That evening, after he left to meet some friends, I sat at the dining table, scrolling through the pictures on his camera. I couldn't stop staring. Each photograph felt like a reminder of the person I used to be. The girl Richard had fallen in love with. The woman who once believed she could have it all. But somewhere along the way, she had been buried under routines, responsibilities, and neglect. It was in that vulnerable state that I made my first mistake. I decided to post one of Daniel's photos on social media. It wasn't anything inappropriate, just a portrait of me, smiling with sunlight streaming through the window. But the comments poured in quickly. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years complimented me, Old classmates messaged to say I hadn't changed a bit. Even acquaintances remarked on how radiant I looked. For the first time in so long, I felt noticed. And then came a message that would shift everything. It was from Mark Reynolds, an old friend from high school. We had lost touch after graduation, though I remembered him as the charming, funny boy who always sat behind me in English class. He had been my first crush, though nothing had ever come of it. His message was simple. "Laura, wow, you look amazing. How have you been after all these years?" I should have ignored it. I knew better. But loneliness has a way of making poor decisions feel justifiable. I replied. What started as a polite exchange quickly grew into long conversations. Mark was now divorced, living only an hour away, and working as a contractor. He was easy to talk to, funny in ways Richard hadn't been in years. When Mark complimented me, I believed him. When he listened to me vent about feeling invisible, I felt seen. Weeks passed, and while Daniel thought he had simply inspired me with his photos, the truth was, those images had opened a door I didn't know I wanted to walk through. I found myself sneaking out to meet Mark for coffee, telling Richard the first was running errands or catching up with friends. With every meeting, the guilt grew heavier, but so did the thrill. The turning point came one afternoon when Daniel asked, "Mom, have you been happier lately? You seem different, lighter." His questions stopped me cold. My son had unknowingly triggered the very situation I was hiding. His photographs had given me confidence. Yes, but they had also awakened desires I had buried, and now he could see the change without even knowing why. The guilt consumed me. I looked at Daniel and thought about how he admired me, how he saw me as strong and inspiring. If he ever found out the truth, that I had betrayed his father, that I had let myself get swept into something reckless, it would shatter him. And yet, I didn't stop. The secrecy became addictive. Mark made me feel alive in ways I hadn't in decades, and I convinced myself I deserved it after years of neglect. But lies have a way of catching up. One evening, Richard found a message on my phone. I had been careless, too comfortable. He confronted me in the kitchen, his face pale with rage and heartbreak. The kids were upstairs, unaware of the storm brewing below. Richard's voice shook as he asked, "Who is he, Laura? How long has this been going on?" In that moment, the illusion shattered. My marriage, my family, my image, all of it came crashing down. Daniel came downstairs midway through the argument, confused and horrified. He saw the phone in his father's hand, the tears in my eyes, the betrayal written all over the scene. It was Daniel who spoke first. His voice broke when he said, "Is this because of me? Because of those pictures?" My heart cracked wide open. He blamed himself for inspiring me, for awakening something in me that led to destruction. I tried to tell him it wasn't his fault, that my choices were mine alone. But the damage was done. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. Richard moved out temporarily. Daniel avoided me, and my younger daughter, Emily, clung to me as though afraid I would disappear too. The house that once felt warm now felt suffocating, filled with silence, judgment, and regret. But in that silence, I was forced to face myself.